Hi, everyone. How are you? Um, Hi, Arielle. Today we have Arielle Rooney here from Rooney Resumes, right? And
Hi, thank
I
you for
just wanted
having
to
me.
talk to sure. And you are a teacher by day, is
hmm
yes? And what grade do you teach?
Fifth grade, fifth grade.
Okay,
I've been teaching for the past 10 years, and I've almost always been fourth and fifth grade. So those upper grades are kind of my jam.
okay, so you're starting soon, right? Not
hmm
yet,
Not yet.
right? Not
Yes, we have another week of summer here. So,
right. Another week of summer here. But you've created this really awesome, I want to call it a side hustle, but more of a side hustle. It's
hmm
really a second profession. I remember when I got my doctorate and I wanted to go out for administrative positions because that's what I got my
hmm
doctorate in. And I hired a resume writer and an interview coach and a whole thing. Of course, I had children and life took it went and went. And then I was actually interviewing for administrative positions right before COVID
hmm
and got level one, level two interviews, and then COVID hit, and I was like, "Thank God, thank God, I didn't
Yeah,
get those positions at this particular time." So I felt like God
right.
was watching out for me a bit.
hmm
But I remember spending so many hours with that interview coach and with that resume writer, and feeling like that investment was so important for my career. And so maybe you could tell us a little bit about why you started your business, all that.
Absolutely. So I think the number one thing, and I'm sure everyone in education, especially in New York, will talk about is when you're explaining the interview process to someone who's not a teacher, they're like, what? I'll never forget early on in my career, I was just interviewing for maternity leave. It was a 2 month position. There was nothing after it. It was just 2 months. And I was sitting down at the tables right around Thanksgiving, and I said, "Oh, well, I made it to round two, and then I have to teach a lesson, and then I have to meet the superintendent." And they were like, "What?" Every other profession has one interview. This
Right.
is really one of the few careers where you're interviewing four times for one position. So
And
I
a
think
two-month
that's
position at that. And a
a
2-month
2 month
position.
position. Yeah,
Right.
not
Not
even
even
something
a
that's
full year.
lifelong. Exactly. So it's very overwhelming. And I think the biggest thing, and I always tell my clients this, is there's so many people who are drawn to education. So the candidate pool is so large. And I
Mm,
think that's where it causes problems for a lot of candidates because they have to figure out how to stand down and how to tackle this whole lengthy process. And for me, and I think why I started this to begin with is I went through the process myself. I graduated college, I was subbing, I was doing leave replacements, and I'm like, why can I not land a probationary position? And the one thing that I did that I feel like a lot of people don't is ask for feedback. I think, and you coming from an administrative background, I think it's so important to develop that rapport with administrators because then you can get candid with them. What could I have done differently? Be honest with me. What should I have said? And I always felt like when I made those connections, they were so honest and I grew so much and I started taking notes. And that was my big thing. Every single time I went on an interview, I would study, I would prepare, I would take notes afterwards. And I just kind of compiled all this information. And the thing about the interview process is it can be really heart wrenching because you might
mm.
get your hopes up and you might have had a demo lesson. You made it to round three and you felt so confident, and then you never get a call back. So I've been through that heartache myself. I was not handed a position on a silver platter. I really had to work for it. And I always say the job hunt is a second job.
Yes.
It
It's a
takes
primary
so
job.
much time. It is. And I remember like being at concerts with my husband and I'd get an email saying a position opened up in a district I really want. And I'd sit there and I'd be doing a cover letter while the band is playing because
Right.
I was just so focused on making sure that I got my application in. So, it's something that kind of is very overwhelming for a lot of people, and
And it's
frustrating.
emotional. And
It,
it's
it
frustrating,
is.
it's emotional.
It
Um,
is.
and a lot, and having been on that interview process. 17 years teaching, it was not an easy road for me as well. I would also ask administrators for feedback. And besides the content of knowing, what to teach, how to teach it, all of those pedagogical questions, a lot of it is the nonverbal communication or socially, how you are in an interview or how you dress at an interview or how you sort of like conduct yourself, how you stand. What do you tell clients?
So it's really an art. Interviewing is really an art form. And I have a lot of clients that are amazing educators. I mean, they go above and beyond, but maybe they aren't the best at emails, sending a thank you email. And, it's funny to say this, but you have a typo in that email, you might not get called back just because of that. So
right.
It's really about being meticulous and I think so many teachers are type A anyway, which helps us, but it's really about being a perfectionist and making sure every single step of that process, whatever you're contributing to that, you want to make sure that it's perfect. So that's kind of where this business started for me. So I had taken all this knowledge and then I started helping all my friends who were trying to get positions and then former colleagues that were also like subs or TAs. And then I was like, I think I can expand this a little bit. I want to help people more because scrolling through all the teacher Facebooks, which I think is such a phenomenal resource that we have social media now, I was just noticing so many people asking questions and so many people getting frustrated and so many people wanting to know the reason why aren't I getting hired? Why am I seeing other people get hired? I have more experience. I have this certification. I have this background. And I was like, okay, I think this is my niche. So I started with resumes and cover letters because I've always loved to write. And then I kind of paved the way into when I was having those conversations with clients, interviews got brought up, obviously. And then I realized there's so much that people don't know about each step of the process and how to conduct yourself and how to phrase things. Like we go over sentence starters, we go over buzzwords to include, we talk about what to wear, what to bring with you, nail polish, jewelry, everything is looked at when the candidate pool is 3,000 people. So you have to stand out with the resume, which is where I come in first. And then you have to stand out once you get there because they might still be interviewing upwards of 100. So it's all about how to stand out while still being true to yourself and still portraying the type of educator that they want, in a new hire. So that's kind of where I come in.
I remember I was trying to get a permanent substitute position, like 25 years old. I couldn't get a job out here. It was just really cutthroat. And I was hanging around with the administrative assistant, and it was like this huge stack of papers under the desk. And I'm like, what's that huge stack of papers over there? You've got all these teachers writing demo lessons. And believe me, they're no slouches, these teachers. They were from top tier schools. They were coming back from Michigan and Penn State and NYU, and they're writing their demo lessons. And the administrative assistant says, oh, those are just like a portion of the applicants. Those are just their resumes, paper resumes, over 600. Over 600 resumes just sitting in a pile just for a permanent substitute position.
Yeah.
So it was just insane. And I remember the frustrating time that I had. Very hard time. Now on your website, I see that you also do help with demo lessons as well. So I just want to share your website here for a second, if you don't mind. I'm sharing the screen here. And where does it say demo lessons?
It's under written services. If you go back up,
because that would have been really helpful. I mean, I went to, my parents are former teachers. Now they're millionaire teachers. But for the written services, let's just say you do resume, you do cover letter reformatting. You could even do like resume reformatting as well. Right, $100 for the creation of a new document, professional reference list, the thank you follow-up letter, right, the demo lesson plan. So I went to my parents' I mean, of course, I went to college, then I went to grad school, and I could have asked my professors, I could have asked my colleagues, but I did because the demo lessons were so tedious. I just remember the demo lessons taking, oh my God, just preparing for a demo lesson could have taken me
Forever.
an entire weekend.
Mm-hmm.
And that's for high school English. For an elementary class, I couldn't even imagine, like with all the colorful manipulatives
Mm-hmm.
and all of the things. So here you help with demo lesson plans. So let's talk about that for a minute.
So I think the struggle, even, just getting observed, even me, when I get observed by administration, it's like you want to incorporate so much in such a short amount of time. I want my principal to see this. I want them to see this. I want them to see hands-on learning. I want them to see higher order thinking questions. And like a lot of times, I know for me, when I first started trying to look for a job, I always incorporated too much because I
Mm,
wanted them to see everything. And I notice with my clients, when they bring me prospective lesson plans that they want to go over, it's way too much. And I always say simple is best. One skill to focus on, one activity. A lot of people don't realize that, especially at the elementary level, when we have those early finishers, when they're finished, they play. So
mm.
you have to have something else for the kids to do that finish really quickly, and how to differentiate on the spot. And a lot of people think, well, I don't know these kids, so I'm just going to do one standard skill, one standard activity. And what I go over with my clients is
And that's for
how
the
to
demo.
assess. Yeah, how to assess where the kids are automatically. These are, kids you've never seen before. You have no familiarity with them. But I
Wow.
help my clients figure out how to do on the spot assessment and then quickly differentiate. And every single client that's done that has gotten hired. And I think that's what makes the difference.
I mean, I just want to show again, because it's just so impressive. Your testimonial page is awesome. It's really incredible. They talk so much about how you've helped them. Where is it? Under testimonials right here, under more. I mean, yeah, these are people. So how long have you been doing this? Because this testimonial list is huge, I feel.
Yeah, that's actually, I haven't updated that in about 2 years.
Oh my God.
Everyone has started submitting their testimonials on Facebook. So I should actually probably copy and paste those and put them in and update that a little bit. But
Yeah.
I've been doing this since 2018. And again, it started just with resumes. And now I feel like it's almost turning into a life coach situation. I've
Yes.
made so many great connections, and I have people, and I say this all the time. I have a 5-month-old. I never sleep. I'm always awake anyway. So I'm
Okay.
like, you can reach out anytime. I'm awake.
Hmm.
And, I have so many people crying to me, celebrating with me, sharing their frustrations with me. And I really appreciate that. I love that I'm a resource for support for so many educators. And I never saw myself doing this. But now that I do it, I can't ever imagine not doing it. Just because I love helping others. I help people make decisions when it comes to, okay, what's better, the commute or the school district? Should I do the commute? Should I not? Should I do this grade or this grade, this position or this? Because I love helping people make those decisions when they get there.
Mm.
And it's just reflective of how all our hard work combines, like comes to fruition, where now they have the opportunity to make those decisions. But I think the most important thing for me is how I've become a real resource for them. I find it to be really rewarding that people trust me with helping them make decisions. I get such gratification out of it. Like I feel like I'm making a difference. Um, and I love, obviously as teachers, we make a difference every day, but I think helping other teachers like actually fulfill their dreams and feel supported and be able to have a place to like vent out their frustrations and work through questions that they have. Or I've helped some teachers get out of the teaching profession and go
How
into
so?
other professions as well. They realized it wasn't really for them. So it's just kind of expanded into this whole like life coach, career coach thing also. And I'm like so honored that people want me to be a part of their decision making. I think that's so cool.
Wow. I just had a question and I just forgot the question. But that's okay. We can move on to something else.
Yeah, I was talking about when they like go into other careers as well. Like they switch jobs. They're not teachers anymore. Like they go into a whole different field. I feel like that's when you started to say something and I
It's okay. So I remember it now. I had you have the whole thing with the demo lesson,
Mm-hmm.
and that's great. And then getting the job, and then you've helped so many people. What about actually keeping the job? Have you ever helped people keep the job? Because getting the job is a job, right? That's a whole
Mm-hmm.
thing. I mean, I was waitressing and trying to get the job as a teacher. Then uh, I'd be a leave replacement, and then interviewing for the permanent positions. I
Mm-hmm.
was a permanent sub, and and then I landed a position. I landed many positions throughout the years. And what about actually keeping the job? I mean, do you help teachers say, well, it's my first observation at
Mm-hmm.
this new school. Forget about a demo. I'm here to now keep the job and get tenure. So what do you do with those
Exactly.
people?
So that's something that I've started doing more this year because I've helped so many clients in the past get hired that they're still coming to me for advice. So the number one thing I always tell people is as a first year teacher, things that you should be doing. Volunteering for like advising student clubs, joining committees, attending the after school activities, the weekend activities, do it all. You want them to see your face in that school as much as possible. So that's always kind of what I tell all my clients. But then when it comes to actually getting evaluated and getting observed and things like that, I
Yes.
have started to consult teachers and offer consultations on how to implement a highly effective lesson plan and what you need to incorporate. So that was actually one of my latest webinars that I did. It didn't just apply to people who are looking for a job, it applied to everybody who's in education. Everyone can kind of benefit from that level of professional development where they're just figuring out how to look at the Danielson framework, for example, just
Mhm.
make sure that they're incorporating everything that administrators are looking for while still catering to their individual class of students and to their style as an educator.
So I see for $20,
Mm-hmm.
a teacher can come on to your webinar. It says that you do them at 7:30,
Mm-hmm.
right? You do them at 7:30 p.m. and they can learn whichever topic. So first of all, how did you transition into webinars? Was that like a COVID? Was that a COVID
It
thing with
kind of
webinars?
it kind of was because at one point I was doing interview coaching face to face.
Right.
We'd meet at a library or a Starbucks because there's so many people that need that practice with body language and they have to like feel nervous and work through all of those answers like in a mock interview kind of style. So once COVID hit, I stopped doing that, and then we were doing it on Zoom. And then I realized that a lot of times when I was doing these consultations and sessions with clients, which cost them, $60 for 60 minutes kind of thing, I'm like, a lot of this is so repetitive. What if I just get them all together at once,
Right.
have them pay a third of the price to save money? And it's still personalized because on these webinars, they can actively ask questions as I go along and it's like super interactive. It's not just me like spewing information out. I'm able to reach so many more people in a short amount of time. They save money. I get to help them. My reach is extended a little bit more. So that's kind of where those webinars came in. So the first webinar that I did live was in June, and it was all about applying from start to finish.
Mm,
And I had a huge turnout for that. And I think the reason why is because a lot of people understand like how to use an application site like OWASP or the DOE Job Finder, but there's a lot of intricacies that you don't realize you have to make sure are checked off. Like a lot of things you need to incorporate, like a writing sample, how to customize cover letters. I also went into just how to maintain a professional profile in general,
yes.
monitoring your social media, making sure when you're Googled, what comes up,
Interesting.
all those kinds of things. So I think, especially now with COVID, like paving the way into more of a digital platform, digital portfolios, teacher websites, things like that, which is something else that I offer. And I just really went through the start to finish each step of the process, what to expect. Should I call them if I don't hear back? How long should I wait? That's always a big question that people
Right.
ask.
Like dating. It's like
Um,
dating.
oh, yes, it is.
It's
So
like
I think it's so much like dating. So, I think it was a real overview and a lot of people felt really reassured by that. Like, all right, this is like the sense that I have of the interview process now. This is the boxes I need to make sure I check off. This is what I should do in case this happens. And then my second webinar was all about the interview in general. So based off of my interview clients, I compiled a really comprehensive list of all the hot topics that are being asked this season, the initiatives that are really big with superintendents, things that schools are sending their teachers to professional development on, big things that they want to see implemented in their classroom, then buzzwords and sentence starters and things like that. So that was like a really up-to-date, webinar on interviews. And then the last one I did was demo and observation lessons. So that was just, how to implement highly effective lesson planning for current teachers or teachers looking to get a job. So I hosted those live more than once. And then as the season started to trickle down a little bit, now I recorded them. So similar, like I think we're recording this, I record it and then people can get digital access as well to watch anytime. And then once the school year picks up again, I'll probably do some more. I try to cater the webinars to whatever clients want. So like I posted a questionnaire and they wanted demo lesson. They wanted how to nail an observation. So that's why I did that third one. So once the school year starts, I'll probably ask for some feedback again and cater it to what everybody wants and what everybody needs.
So how do you market this? How do you get your word out?
So at the beginning, it was really Facebook, all the teacher Facebook groups. People would ask, I need somebody to help me. I need this, I need that. And I would post myself, hey, I'm new at this. I really think I can help you. Here are my rates. And one thing I really stand by is my transparency with my rates. I charge $80 for a cover letter, a resume revamp, which is mostly what everybody needs. $60 for a cover letter. Interview coaching has been $1 a minute forever. I don't think it is ethical to charge any more than that. People always say, you should really be charging more. No, I'm here to help. And that's the most important thing. This isn't just a business. This is what I've been dedicating my life to as of yet. So I think keeping my rates low has really been word of mouth also. I think I'm the most affordable and I pride myself on that. I think it's really
I spend a lot. I remember spending a lot. However, I do remember, driving about an hour, meeting with a person, spending 3 hours on her couch, just tell me about yourself, tell me about your career, tell me about your plans, tell me about your professional goals. Where do you go? Where do you want to go? Where do you see yourself? And just, and then she spent, another week or two revamping. So it was, I paid, I paid a heavy, heavier price than that, but it came out amazing. It came out great. But I felt like those 3 hours, and then it must have taken her at least another 2-3 hours to revamp. So at the end of the day, it was probably about $60 an hour that, right. I mean, right. You have to talk to the person.
It's and my
you don't want to charge pennies on the dollar. You don't want to charge pennies on the dollar for your time.
So Google Docs is a really great way to interact. So as I'm revamping the resume, if I have questions well, what kind of technology did you use? And what would you say were your biggest takeaways from this? I'll just comment that, and then we can chat back and forth on there in real time, or when it's convenient for them. So I might be working on 5 or 6 different resumes at once, and that works out for me with baby schedule. Right. And it works out for my clients as well, because it's just they can kind of access it on their phone whenever they can. And it's just been really working very well that way. But in addition, obviously, to word of mouth, it's just, I think Facebook, as my reputation has grown, people recommend me. Then I created my website. I just recently created an Instagram at RooneyResumes. And I'm hosting giveaways and contests and things like that, and every day I'm offering free advice. So it was Smart Tip Sunday, Tell Me Tuesday, and people can ask questions, and I'll answer them for free. So it's just a great resource. You know, I don't feel like I need to charge every time to just help people. I just want to help people. So, and I love Instagram a little more than Facebook because it's a little more interactive with all the different features in the stories. So, and then like I'm hosting a giveaway and I'm doing like 50% off a resume, a free webinar, a free interview coaching document. So just to kind of get people to realize, you know what, it's not over. It's the last week of summer, but
Right. No, it's
teachers
just
retire
beginning.
and resign all the time, all year
No,
long.
it's just
So,
beginning. I mean, I know February 1 is like the time to get your, to start, to begin your
mhm.
process, to begin the application process, because that's, during January is when they sort of like make their decisions on the
Yep.
teachers and everything like that. So you'll probably do like a ramp up maybe
It
to
slowly,
February, like this
yeah,
whole
it
ramp up.
slowly dies down from now until
Yeah.
like January.
Right.
And then once like February, March hits, everyone starts feeling the pressure and they're like, okay, I got to get my stuff in. But I always suggest like not to cram it that way, because a lot of times what'll happen is someone's like, oh my goodness, I just saw a job I want to apply to, but the deadline's tomorrow. And then that doesn't give me enough time, you know? So I always suggest like, if you're chilling from September to December, but you know you're looking in the spring, get it done
No,
now, you
I,
know? So
I
that
got a
way
job
it's
in
just,
October. I remember getting a leave replacement job middle of October. The person got sick, and then it was a leave replacement. And then by November, December, the person said that he was resigning. And then there I was. And then they wanted to re-interview me again because I was on
mm-hmm,
um, the substitute line or something. And then I had to go to the
mm-hmm,
leave replacement
right.
line or something like that. So, yeah, I mean, now it seems like, okay, well, the teachers are getting there and settling in, and everybody's sort of getting themselves together, and new teachers or teachers who are not tenured necessarily are really gearing up for that first evaluation.
Yeah.
But if you're out there looking, if you're out there looking, you should always be ready with a locked and loaded
That's what I
resume,
say.
cover
It's
letter,
never
everything.
over. It's
It's
never over.
never
And
over
especially
until you're
since
solidified.
education is such a um, female filled field.
Hmm.
Um, that's like a tongue twister, female filled
Yeah.
field. There are so many people that go out on maternity and want to extend
Yes.
or never come back. And that's all year long. That could be
Right.
October, that could be December, that could be January, that could be September. I have a friend who's just decided she's not going back and she's on maternity and school starts next week. It is never over. So for those people that are job hunting, it's important to stay on top of it all year round. And then
And
even just,
And I'm sorry, and I just want to emphasize not just job hunting, actually, solidifying your position, keeping your job.
mm-hmm,
That's that whole, because I feel like you've got so much opportunity in your field here that I think that you could even like sort of construct it on your website. Like, here's how to, these are the tools you need to get your job. And then here are the tools you'll need to solidify your position as a
mm-hmm,
confident, tenured teacher. So it doesn't just end or begin and end with a resume, a cover letter, and a demo lesson. I mean, there's all the, and what about just, having been on and having led and been on committees, um, how to interact on that level, how to interact with the committees,
yep,
right? What committee should I join? How do I want to be viewed in the school at, um, let's say the school play versus parent teacher conference? How do I navigate my first parent teacher conference? You
yep,
know, all of these facets, of education, you can cover this. And because people feel, educators feel, especially in the beginning, and I can speak for myself, those first 5 years were like something I've never experienced in my entire life.
mm-hmm. And I think that first year, especially, like, It's almost like the first year of being a mom. I connected to the same thing. You're sleep
Oh,
deprived. It's a whirlwind. You don't remember anything. It's like a total, like, I'll never forget, like, opening up the door and seeing 32 kids lined up
yeah.
waiting for me. And I'm like,
And they
what
wait
do
for
I do
you.
with them? They do. They're
They're
just sitting there
looking
with
at
their
you,
bags. Like,
right? They're
what do I
looking at you
do?
like, okay, we're here now.
Let's go. And it's like, well, we don't have routine. We have to kind of create this new environment together. I mean, that's actually a great idea. Like, maybe I could do a webinar on how to get tenure, how to establish yourself as a
I mean,
first year
yeah,
teacher. Like, there's so many things that, and so many pieces of advice that I've given so many people. And we kind of forget about that. Like, you can't get comfortable just because you're hired. Now it really gears up, and you have to do
yes,
100 times more of what you did
yeah.
just to get a job.
Yeah, like, I remember giving birth, right? Like, I have two children, and I remember giving birth, and I'm like, okay, I went, I did it. I went through the pregnancy. Oh my God.
Oh,
And
it's
then
not over.
right, I gave birth. Okay, great. And I'm sitting there and I'm like, okay. And then the nurse is like, okay, now here's your baby,
Mm-hmm.
you know? And I'm like, well, you're a mom now. Now it begins.
Yep.
So and it's so funny, and it's interesting because today I saw I dropped my son off for his first day of school, and this is my second child
Mm-hmm.
going to nursery school, and I
Oh.
see my friend there, and it's her first child dropping her child, and she is in tears. She's outside crying,
Oh.
bawling, and oh my God, oh my God. And I pass her by, and I'm just like, smiling ear to ear,
You're like,
ear to ear.
hi.
I'm like, oh my God, this is great. I can
Mm-hmm.
work, I can go to the gym, I can do whatever I need to do, and my son can learn, and
Right.
we can separate for the first time, and with this COVID thing for like a year. Um, and I remember it's the same thing going in. I'm extending the first year into 5 years for me. I'm extending that because it was literally when I graduated from college, I'm like, great, it's
Mm-hmm.
done. And those first
Nope.
5 years were like a world of hurt. It was a world of hurt. It was like,
Yeah.
I mean, I was wearing the suits, I was getting dressed up for the interviews, and I didn't really know what to wear um to my first job necessarily. Like, one
Yep.
teacher was like, you need to wear sandals with closed toes, and you need to wear,
Mm-hmm.
just so these are just so many things. Just to get comfortable. Like now,
Yeah. I
so
think there's a lot of things that we forget. Like, you have to prepare for partnership with parents. You have to prepare for relationships with kids. You have to prepare
co-teacher,
for
co-teacher,
professional You have to prepare for
co-teacher.
professional relationships with co-teachers, with grade level teachers, with administrators, with support staff that come in. And then in addition to lesson planning and assessing and all of that. So we have so much on our plates as teachers. It's just like a constant juggling act of, like, I picture that, like, person with the plates that spins all the plates at the same time, like with their leg and
Yes.
their hands, and
Yeah, yeah,
that's who we are.
yeah.
So it's a lot to manage as a new teacher. I think there's a lot that new teachers don't realize that they should be doing, or how to do it. So that's kind of where I've started melting
Yeah.
into that new PD kind of
Yeah, I
field.
remember as a new teacher, like very new, like right out of college, I got a subbing position in the DOE, and it was May, and I was like their third teacher of the
Mm-hmm.
year, and I had the position from May to June, and they were seniors, and I was like 21 years old, and it was like 3 weeks in, probably last 2 weeks in, and I was just on my assistant principal, the person who hired me. I was on her couch crying, and that's not where to be.
Yeah, no,
That's
no,
not what to do. Like, when somebody
right.
asks you, hey, when when your administrator says, well, hey, how are you doing today? Do not, do not start telling her your woes.
Mm-mm.
Do
No, and I
not,
think that's where like knowing who to rely on, and establishing, first of all, I always say as an untenured teacher, keep your mouth closed. Be very careful. And that's
Smile,
very hard for a lot of
smile,
people to do. Smile and nod and
smile,
say yes to everything. But
and keep
also
your mouth shut.
your intuition will tell you who to trust. And some of my best friends in my life, like along the way, have been teachers that I've worked with.
Yes,
My maid of honor was a teacher that I worked with in the DOE, and we just became best friends. I was just a
yes,
bridesmaid in one of my colleagues' weddings this past weekend. Like,
awesome.
you have to find your people. Obviously, you're going to be friends with everybody, but you'll find your niche of people that you can close the door and be like, and just kind of let it out. It's not administration. It's not your mentor. If you're a first year teacher, it's not your mentor. But you'll find your people that you can kind of vent to. But don't lose that way of speaking and that rapport with your administrators. Like, I've been teaching for 10 years. I still email my principal and double and triple quadruple check to make sure that I have capital letters and
100%.
good grammar and like, you know, polite
100%.
and professional. I still address her as Mrs. So-and-so, even though every single time she's like, oh, call me by my name. Like, you know, it's just something that I think a lot of people just, not because they haven't been exposed to it, have not gained those skills and how to be like professionally eloquent
Yes,
throughout your career. Like, you can't lose that after interviewing. That's something that you really have to maintain to gain a good reputation and to gain the respect and you know, that you need from your colleagues and your administrators. So I think that's something that a lot of people forget, but it's super duper important.
yes, yes. Okay, so when is your next webinar?
Well, I'll just go into a little detail here. So I am getting married again, COVID bride, on Monday. So September 6th. So that week
Oh,
will
yeah,
probably be a
Labor
little
Day wedding.
stressful. Labor Day wedding. Yes, we got legally married outside. We had 10 minutes. The cops came. It was like a whole thing. They were like, okay, 10 minutes, go. And I was like, okay. It was like an illegal thing to get married. It's like historic that we did that. But now we're having our big party on Monday. So
Wow.
I think it's important to kind of get people after that, to get people settled in their jobs. Because that first like couple of weeks, that first month is really overwhelming. Like, I remember like not even like last year, not even answering texts from like my mom or my family or my husband, because I'm just so like, you know, prepping everything. So I think I want to give everybody September to just kind of get in
Yes,
there
please.
and woosah a little bit, adjust. And then I think in October, I'll probably do my next live webinar. But as always, like, every webinar is recorded, so anyone can access them at any time if they want them.
So how
But
much,
yeah.
so it's $20 to go to the webinar,
Mm-hmm.
right? And how will they find out? Will they have to check your website or they'll go on your
So
Instagram?
yeah, I think my Instagram has become the biggest source of sharing news and updates.
Okay.
Just because it's really easy. I do advertise on Facebook. I post in all the Facebook groups, but sometimes when there's thousands and thousands of people, you know,
Yes.
it sometimes gets lost in the wall of posts. So Instagram's a great way to check. Facebook's a great way to check. My website as well. Once I determine like a date that works for everybody, I want to make sure it's not near like, you know, back to school night or anything like that. So I really try to cater to the schedule of my clients, and that's why I do it 7:30, because I feel like that's late enough where dinner's cooked. If they have kids, you know, they're going off to sleep, hopefully.
Yeah.
So, and it's not too late because we know we all need sleep. So yeah, I'm probably going to shoot for around October. And again, Instagram is the best way to kind of be up to date with that. I'm sure I'll be sharing
And it's
a
Rooney
countdown.
Resumes, right? And that
Rooney
you're
Resumes at Instagram. Yep.
okay. Okay. And do you have any idea about what it might be about?
I really do think it might be about maintaining a good reputation as a first year teacher, how to get tenure,
That's great.
do's and don'ts, things you need to make sure that you're doing daily, things not to do. I think that would be a good October review in terms of the season. And
And it's
again, it's
right
helpful
before,
for everybody.
right. And it's right before your evaluation, right?
Mm-hmm.
Our evaluations come around mid-October,
Yep.
somewhere around there.
Yep.
So what would you say to a person? What would you say what not to do?
In terms of like a first year teacher,
Or for any before tenure, what would you say,
not to do.
not to do?
Try your best not to say no. I know it's really hard, but if administrators ask you to do something, just do it. Just show that you have um, the enthusiasm and the dedication to like doing those extras. I think I facilitated like 4 clubs and did like 3 committees my first year.
Yes. Yes.
And honestly, it's a lot. I'm not gonna lie and say it was easy. It's not easy, but you gain a professional reputation that way and you become a resource. So they would be like, oh, go to Arielle. She's a cheerleading coach. She'll know when the schedule of games are. And that also gave me the opportunity. I was a lifelong cheerleader, so I ate that up. I loved it. But that gave me an opportunity to get to know kids in 3rd through 5th grade. So it wasn't only my class as a first year teacher that I knew, I was getting to know all the kids that would eventually come to my class. Just being also able to like walk down the hallway and be like, oh, hi, Debbie, good to
Right.
see you. Like, I think that goes a long way as a teacher, is just being able to know more than just your class. So
Yes.
yeah, try your best not to say no. I know it's really hard. Also, I think asking for feedback from administrators is really important. So if they come in
And it's
for an
scary to hear it.
observation, it
Isn't
is.
it scary to hear it? It's like,
It's
oh,
intimidating.
I don't
It
want
is.
to hear I always felt like, because they have to give feedback,
Yep.
which is fine, which is necessary.
Mm-hmm.
But then to say, well, can you go maybe a little bit further, or to tell me a little bit more feedback?
Right. Like next time, what would you like to see when I'm doing my like ask a specific question, you know? So I think that's really important, is to like seek out anything for next time you think I should incorporate, like really like going out of your way to do that. And also when you're having issues, colleague level first, whether it's a parent or student, go to your colleagues first. Go to your grade level colleagues and be like, I'm having trouble with this. What do you think I should do? Don't automatically go to administration. You might have that relationship with them and that's all well and good, but I think it's really important to build your collegial support group. And also you're going to be more independent that way. You don't want to constantly rely on your administrator to figure out your problems. You want to be able to solve them on your own, and going to your colleagues when need be is the best way to do that. So I would say like those are my like 3 big not to do's.
Yes. What do you say about dating at work?
No.
Right? That's what we always say. No, don't, because we're in a high school. I don't know what goes on in elementary school, really.
Mm-hmm.
I know there's a lot of, it's just majority female in elementary schools, what I've found. And that's fine. But in high school, it's sort of like, it gets like it's different. It's different. And
It's never good to date where you work, I don't think. And the kids pick up on everything.
Yes.
Like
The
even
kids are
just
dating, and then it's terrible.
besides like dating, just like friendships, like in all my schools, like everyone knows in my current school, one of my good friends that I work with, we're very competitive with each other. Like that's our friendship. So anytime there's like a field day or a competition or an assembly, they're like, you're gonna get Miss Cassidy's class, right? We're gonna be like they pick up on our competitiveness. They pick up on who your friends in other classes are. Like they're so intuitive with that stuff. So you just want to make sure that you have good relationships with everybody. Like be really
But no
positive.
dating. No dating.
No, definitely not. No. And
It's
also I think
crazy.
just like you don't have to be Snow White. And I think that's really important, especially at the elementary level. Like you don't have to put on this persona of like everything's lovely and good morning and I'll do this, and you can be real. It's important to be real. But there's a way to be professional while still being true to yourself. And I think that's finding that perfect balance where you're not going to put on a show all the time. I don't think that's genuine. I think that's really exhausting. But just, I think that's something else that I'll talk about, how to just grow professionally and build those relationships while being true to yourself, while also, making sure that you're being the educator they wanted when they hired you.
Right. Well, you just reminded me of something that I haven't thought about probably in about 15 or 20 years. And that is and that is when I landed a pretty big position, what I thought was an important position. I didn't know how to dress and to act and be reflective of the interview because I
Mm-hmm.
wanted to be the person that they hired on the, it was 4 interviews, 4 different interviews for this one position. I wanted to be that person that they hired, but I also wanted to be true to myself. I
Mm-hmm.
also wanted to be a relatable educator to my students. All of these components, I wanted to be approachable to my colleagues, all of these
Mm-hmm.
things, approachable parents, colleague, all everybody. And I bought this little strand of pearls at Macy's or something like and my childhood friend saw me, my friend who I grew up with, and she's like, "What is that? What is going on?"
Yeah.
Like we met after school one day, and she's not an educator, but she looks at me, and to this day, she'll be like, "Debbie, those strand of pearls," because the thing is that that's something I would never wear, that I would
Mm-hmm.
never be, that I would never do. Um, and it's a representative, it's just, it was a symbol of, I don't know how to fit in.
Yeah.
That's what it was. It
Yeah.
was a symbol. And she knew it the minute I sat down. I sat down, I met her, and she's like, "Oh my God, what is going on here?"
Right.
So what do you do with people like me, my 25-year-old me? What do you
And you know
say to
what's
that
funny? I
person?
feel like I've spoken a lot about this with clients, not in terms of how to dress, but like what master's degree to pursue, what additional
Mm,
certification to pursue. And I always say, if special ed is not where your heart is at, don't do it. If
right. Like just because
TESOL
it's
is not where your
popular, you'll
heart
get a job.
is at, don't do it. Like, I have an ESL background. I loved working with English language learners. It is
Mm,
hard. It is really, really hard. There's a lot of hand gestures. Like, I had kids that just came here from
yeah,
another country. I had psych students who were
right.
literally fishing their whole life, and fourth grade was their first year in school. It is hard, but that's what I love. And I have some clients who love like ABA classrooms, self-contained classrooms, like that is their jam. That's what they're meant to do. But I always say, if you're going to get another certification, make sure it's something you want to spend the next 30 years of your life doing. We don't want teachers in those specialty areas that went into that to get a job. We want teachers in those specialty areas that want to dedicate their lives to kids with special needs or kids, who are ELLs. So that's something, sorry,
That's okay.
that is always on the forefront of my mind. Why are you choosing that certification? That's really important to make sure that whatever career path you're going down, you're doing it because you want to. I have so many people saying, should I get my early childhood certification? Well, do you want to teach pre-K, kindergarten, first grade, or second grade? If you
Mm,
don't, then don't get it. So it's kind of like people are always trying to not change who they are, but acquire all these extra things to add to their resume just to please an administrator. But is that where you see yourself? So I think it's always really important to keep that in mind, not just with how you dress, of course, but the fields that you go into, the specialties that we sometimes get certified in. We want to make sure it's something we're really passionate about. And I think that's the most rewarding thing. We want to make sure that whatever we're pursuing is something we can, we're going to be in it for the long term, decades upon decades. So we want to make sure it's something we love.
yes. Well, that's great. And we can end on that note because that's really important. I think that, we can talk all day about
Mm-hmm.
about teaching and the components of education. But it's that balance of being true to yourself and how you engage, how you act, what you study, what you pursue, what certifications you acquire.
Mm-hmm.
Um, I spent up until 30 years old getting my degrees, paying for my degrees, getting my degree, all of that stuff. And I'm glad I have them. Um, but I do know people who say, "Oh man, I should have gotten that. I should have done this." So being true to yourself and being a professional and maintaining the position and maintaining some sort of happiness and balance.
Mhm.
And we could talk about this all day.
It's challenging. And what I always start my webinars with some pictures, and I say, I'm a mother, I'm
Yes.
a wife, I'm a daughter, I'm a friend, I'm a colleague, I'm a teacher. Notice I said teacher last. And that's always what I start off my webinars with, because I think it's so important. We stress whether we're looking for a job or we have a job, and we're always stressing about what to do next and what do I have to do for this. At the end of the day, you go home and you have to make sure that who you go home to, whether it's your dog, your husband, your mom, your sister, your roommate, whoever it is, you want to make sure that when you go home, you don't lose your sense of self. And I think that's where I come in. I want to help people feel supported. And I know that you're doing the same thing. Like, we just want to be a resource for teachers, but also remind them that you're an individual first. We always say that about our students. Our students are individuals first and learners second. Let's
Mhm.
make sure we think about that in terms of ourselves too. We're ourselves first and teachers second. And I think that's so important to remember. And having resources like this to rely on when need be, help us find that balance.
Oh, okay. Well, it was so nice. It was so nice meeting with you, Arielle. I'm going to post everything in your website and your Instagram, and it was just so nice spending time with you. And hopefully you'll be back, and you'll share a webinar with us, or maybe you'll talk to us more. But thank you.
Great.
Thank you so
Thank you
much.
for having me.
Sure. Thanks.